effects of climate change are here. On Cape Ann, we have rising sea levels, hotter summers, and most recently a drought which caused wildfires that took weeks to extinguish. Our municipalities are creating net zero plans to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. In Gloucester, 54% of these emissions comes from homes. To bring our greenhouse gas emissions down, homeowners and landlords must electrify everything that runs on fossil fuels. This includes switching from oil and gas heating systems to heat pumps, which act as highly efficient air conditioners. We also need to change out traditional gas hot water heaters to heat pump water heaters, cook with induction stoves instead of gas, and the time has come to switch to electric vehicles. These energy changes are costly, and with 44% of Gloucester's population being low income, the financial burden and other barriers these residents face in the transition to renewable energy is daunting. In 2022, Cape Ann Climate Coalition's Community Building and Education Group had 6 90-minute conversations with 6 Cape Ann residents who varied in age from high schoolers to senior citizens. They talked about climate change and what it means to them. We hear their voices in this video, but do not see them. When people are seen on screen, we use stock footage to illustrate the conversation. Here are the voices from these conversations about their personal barriers to electrifying everything as they contemplate a transition to a renewable future.
You know, I was talking to my aunt about her gas stove, and she goes, well, why is gas bad? I thought gas was good. I mean, I think people just don't know because you keep being told over the years different things. You know, she was told once, oh, oil's so expensive. So she got rid of her oil tank. She put in gas. It wasn't cheap. And then it's like, well, gas isn't good. It's fossil fuels. Well, this isn't good. So where do you start with people that to really explain to them that it's not just your electricity bill. It's just everything. It's overwhelming for me.
People, I don't know how the curriculum is in other schools, but I feel like at least for high school, taking an environmental science class should be a requirement because the only reason I'm taking it is because I chose to. It's not a science that you're required to take, and I feel like everybody in my class has learned so much and has started to implement changes in their routine because they're taking that class. But there's other students in the school who, because it's not a requirement, have chosen not to take it and now don't have the same knowledge that we do in terms of the environment.
But there's not too many teachers that talk about it, and there's not too many assemblies and things like that talk about it either.
Honestly, I can't remember talking about climate change at all through my high school experience.
You hear things through the years. We just recently bought a gas stove because we thought it was better. Stuck with this monstrosity of a gas stove, and I feel like I'm harming the environment. So it's education, education, education.
When we talked about the education thing and how a lot of people just don't even know that there's so many options and aren't aware about the benefits to implementing changes in terms of like solar panels and stuff, my parents definitely fall into that category. So it's not only getting them to make changes, it's teaching and making them understand why these changes are better for like the environment and stuff, because they definitely just do not know.
The complications of climate change, solutions available to them as individuals, and the awareness of new technologies that will solve the climate problem are barriers to electrification. Another factor is lack of money or credit to pay for retrofits and new technology, even though purchasing new technology will save people money over the long term.
We just finished paying for a new roof. So now we can get solar, but it's a matter of now we gotta save up more money to get the solar panels. I wish they'd do some more just helping people get the solar panels without having to go through the big expense. I mean, yes, I live in Annisquam, but my husband inherited this house. We don't have a lot of money, you know, the disposable income. like most Annisquam people do.
Housing and just even finding an apartment, like looking now, a 1 bedroom, I couldn't even afford that on my own. Like you have to find a roommate and you have to split costs, and then it gets up there in price. And then I just feel like, and that on top, like solar panels, even in general, I don't think we would be able to afford that.
I've gone into houses that are for sale, estate sales, right? And people lived there till they died and they didn't have the money to fix anything, let alone upgrade their systems or anything. I think when you're talking to the old, it's like, yeah, you have to inform them of these incentives. What incentives are out there? What money's out there for them?
My parents are separated, so they rely on their own incomes when like paying for their homes. So I don't know if that would be something that would also deter them from taking on the financial stuff that comes with solar panels. That is definitely probably one of the reasons why it's not high on their priority list, is because they don't have like the financial means.
The president of our association actually had someone come here a few years ago and look at our roofs for solar. And they said that they were perfectly pitched. I am one of the trustees that they, this isn't like a high-end area. So people even struggle to pay their common charge sometimes, which is very low. So we were afraid that by putting solar, the upfront costs would be prohibitive and people would say, no, 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 no. Yet everything is electric. I think in the long run, you're going to save money. I only have a water heater and electric heat. There's no furnace. I'm cold in the winter because I leave my heat on like 62, which is fine for sleeping. Be nice to heat my living room a little more.
I live in a condo. We just got a new roof and it wasn't put on right and the shingles are blowing off. So I was thinking, well, maybe we could get solar then, but we have to have it fixed first. And it took all the money in the condo association. So, the economic realities are really an impactful thing.
The majority of low-income households are renters. Most landlords don't have an incentive to make green improvements to their properties. Energy efficiency upgrades favor the tenant by lowering their electric bill, but often don't benefit the landlord.
I don't know that most landlords who do this rental for a living would pass their savings on to their tenants. I've owned a lot of rental properties in the past, and I'm not sure that I'd pass any savings along. I think I'd just leave it status quo. My daughter's apartment is not included, and she has electric heat, no insulation.
There are things incentives that can help them a lot. If you move into a place and you don't find it weatherized, there are a lot of incentives for doing that.
Well, this landlord wouldn't allow them in.
The landlord wouldn't allow Mass Save In to do it.
Right. She lives on the third floor. It's an attic apartment. It's all she could afford. It's a real cute little place, but because the rent is so high, she keeps her heat very, very low in the winter, and it's incredibly hot up there in the summer. It's just not an ideal situation, but it's all she can afford. So, and she's doing it all alone, supporting her son. She's stuck.
Even though there are incentives for purchasing electric vehicles, many residents who desire them are still priced out of the EV market.
I dream of having an EV maybe in 5 or 10 years, being able to afford an electric vehicle, a used one. I don't think I could ever afford a new one.
I'm just a granola bar. And yet I still do not drive an electric car because I can't afford one.
And I can't afford an electric car. I wish I could, but I can't.
And charging the vehicle is another barrier for people living in apartments and condominiums where parking is tight or non-existent. If people do not have a place to charge their vehicles overnight, they tend to purchase gas-powered vehicles. One participant spoke about his research into trying to install an EV charger at his condominium complex.
I was doing a little bit of research on EVs. The whole charging thing it's kind of complicated. Nobody where I live has an electrical vehicle yet, but this would be looking down the road. I don't know how we're going to set it up here. We all have assigned parking spots, and we're not just one big parking lot. We're a parking lot, and then some people park on the street. And EV chargers, you can't have a cable or like your cord can't be more than 25 feet long. They don't come in longer length than that, because the longer your cord, I think you lose a certain amount of amperage or whatever over distance. And in my situation, I do have an outside outlet, just basic 120 volts, but I'm on the 3rd floor, and to run a cable, and it's like, yeah, that's well over 25 feet. So I couldn't use my outside outlet on my house. The easiest thing is that if you have like a garage, and in your garage, you've got not only a 120 volt, but a 240, which is like what you might have for a dryer. If you've got that already there, you can get EV chargers that you just plug in to a 240 volt outlet, and you're all set to do level 2 charging.
Climate change cannot be halted with just the green elites shifting to renewables. We must encourage and support all people in our community to a quick transition to renewable energy and total electrification. An electrified home and car is less expensive, healthier, and what we all need to do to stop climate change.